there's so many different voices that are telling you to be focused on the thing or the car or the house or the this. Or my favorite one is, this is how I used to think very personally a while ago, is I have to build this business and get all this money and get all these things so I can go start dating and I can go start finding a wife. And God forbid you find a gold digger, because that's what that's going to attract. If you think money is going to be the source of that person's satisfaction, it is just crazy to think. And there's so many ways that in our business it's shown where if you put the focus on him and you go through the word. I like to explain the Bible if for the people that haven't read it, and most people haven't. It's the instruction manual to a perfect life and to happiness and to get out of that hole and to not have a giant void of depression. And so for the analytical person that's watching this or listening and you just haven't really found that place yet, it's explain it in a way to where don't think about it as this out in the clouds, lofty belief. Read the book. I dare you. Like, you read all these leadership books and listen to all these podcasts, you're listening to this one, take a few days worth of time and just start reading through it like you would a normal book. And you will understand what that means to have something in your hands that tells you how to not be depressed, how to be happy, how to be satisfied with the things you have and the people that are around you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Builder's Bible. I'm joined by Reese Alley, who is a partner at a construction called SCA Construction in the Atlanta area, and I'm excited to dive into it here with him today. Reese, my question is always the same to start us out. Tell us a little bit of your story. How'd you guys get started, and how'd we wind up where we are today?
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate you having me on. So in the very beginning, I had a grass cutting business like everybody else, seems like, and then that led into a residential drainage, retaining wall, grading type business. And then my current partner and I actually, merged in 2022, or I guess the beginning of 2021, excuse me. And we've been growing that business since. And he had started the company SCA Construction, in 2012. And up until that point, it had been a semi-commercial, but a lot of residential still, drainage / landscaping business. Doing like stone walls and things like that. And then drainage around people's houses, some, condominium work, apartment work. And since then, and being partners, we've really grown it into something that's a lot, larger now. We've about tripled since then and gotten more into the, city space and municipal work and obviously the vast majority of commercial. But it's been good.
That's awesome, man. Well, so tell us what your kind of niche is. Like, who's your ideal client and how do they find you?
So by trade, we're a stormwater business. So we are the only company in Georgia to have a licensed real estate school on stormwater. So we do CE classes for property managers, anybody that holds a real estate license. So a lot of these institutional managers, stuff like that. But if you were to ask what our ideal client is typically property managers, either institutional or residential. We do work for developers. We do work for city and municipalities, There's about 4 or 5 different cities we do about 30-40% of our revenue with. But our ideal person would be the individual that has a property that is a little bit older, let's say 30 or 40 years old, with corrugated metal pipe in the ground, or they've got a detention pond or retention pond that has aged or needs maintenance or major repairs, that we're able to come in and do the repairs, create a new system, or install some kind of preventative measure that will either get them back into compliance with the local issuing authority or obviously just to control the runoff on the property.
Okay, I know nothing about this space, so I'm actually fascinated to double click on that a little bit. So I'm a property management company in the Atlanta area. What kind of property do I own? Multifamily stuff? Do I own do I own, commercial buildings? What's the typical thing that you see?
Yeah, so it differs a lot. I would say on the residential side, it's a lot of like older condos, apartments, things like that. I wouldn't say the majority is like single family homes. We do get some of that stuff as well, but the majority is like condos, apartments on the residential side. But if you're an institutional manager, which is something we're getting into more of, they might own a hospital, or we have a pretty large project going on right now that is a business park that needs repair and maintenance on their ponds and stormwater system. So it really depends. Like, we worked at a hospital last week. We'll work at a apartment community next week. It just totally depends. But the most common factor is the age of the underground infrastructure is really where our business thrives.
Reese, what was the overall sales or top line revenue, if you don't mind me asking?
So last year we were right at about 3.7 million in intake in cash, and then this year we'll be right at about 5 million.
Nice. And then what's a typical deal? Like, is it a $200,000 contract? And then how do people find you? Is it referrals? Is it a funnel?
Yeah, so it's all referrals at the moment, and it's very different how you find those kinds of customers. Like, the CE courses have been a really good thing for us that have been more recent, but since getting the school approved, it's been a nice thing to be able to teach those classes and educate the managers on how to actually utilize our services. But in terms of our average job, I personally like separating them into small jobs and large jobs, just because the cycle of the customer is very, very different. So if we have one project that's $500,000, it might take a year or two to get approved. And the cycle it goes through the board of directors, through engineering, through all of these different avenues, it might take a really long time for that cycle to come all the way around. Whereas stuff that's $20,000 might get approved in a week or in 2 weeks or something like that. So in terms of our average job under $100,000, it's about $18,000 to $20,000, and then our average job over $100,000 is in that like $250,000 range.
Okay, really cool. So, so it sounds like you don't have a ton of competition in this space, but what's your guys' kind of value prop? Like, when someone's considering you or a competitor, like, what sets you guys apart?
So you did mention, like, it is a fairly non-competitive space. There's about 2 other businesses in Atlanta, and with one more institutional, like, large business that's come down to Atlanta that's trying to capture some of the market. But there's a very limited amount of contractors that specialize in doing this kind of thing. So it's not that hard to get in front of people, to be very honest. Like, the other, I don't know if we'd be the number one person, but at least the top 3 contractor in Atlanta that besides us, that is the most popular with all of these people, that comes up the most, he's subbing for us on a job right now. So we all have our kind of specialty and things like that. But just to, I guess, reiterate your question. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, what's your guys' value prop? What sets you guys apart?
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. But I would say going to a customer where it's a little bit more technical work, like, we have a really, really good team. So if you have a situation like, for example, this job that we started at a hospital, like I mentioned last week, it is about a $250,000 scope, and it's very, very technical. There is a ditch that's going to be open that's over 24 feet deep. There is hydrovac. There's excavation around power lines and unknown underground utilities, and there's issues with traffic control and maintaining ingress and egress. And it's not just like your average drainage job. It's much farther beyond that. And there's not a lot of companies that people can work with that have the expertise to be able to navigate that stuff. And so obviously we sell our team, that's foremost, but also just our guarantee. We don't have a warranty with anything we do, but we have fixed every single thing that people have ever called back on. So in terms of our reputation, it has been cultivated over a long period of time of, hey, these guys stand behind their work. They're going to do the great job, and we're not going to have any problems. And if there is a problem, it's handled in a professional manner where people come back and they take care of you.
So let's talk about what are some sticking points that you guys feel like you're having right now? Is it, hiring? Is it project management, estimation, or what are some sticking points you guys have as a company?
I believe every problem is a people problem, so I'm going to say staffing. That's kind of the solution to most things. Now, you also have to have the work for the staff to do, but also having the right staff helps you get the right work. So it's kind of a dichotomy there. So we've released a staffing campaign that we've been working on as of the last month or two, which is an in-house podcast describing how to be successful within a company, whether it's our company, another construction company, or really any endeavor. And that's the focus we're putting on it, to attract other people that have our core values. It spells dig, diligence, integrity, the golden rule. So conveying a message where people think, wow, I can really succeed with their company or with any other company. I think we're really providing a lot of value there. And also on our medias, the shorts, things like that. And so for the people that are watching it, the general hope is that, hey, they can recognize I can be successful there. I can be entrepreneurial there. My opinion matters. And truly, they can be a part of a business that has godly values, has really great core values, and they can obviously support a family off of. I think there's a lot of businesses that don't have that opportunity where, they can make six figures or some kind of comparable salary or income. And I'm just really hoping to attract that kind of person that really wants to stay somewhere and be entrepreneurial and be heard within our company.
I love that. Let's talk about AI for a second. Where are you guys using it? Where do you feel like you could be using it that you're not?
So I use it probably as much or more than anybody else in the business. I would say we have a couple management staff that use it a lot. And I know, at least on mine, it's much more from a document standpoint, or sometimes an image generation and things like that. But it's really nice just to brainstorm and map out long horizon ideas, or if you've got something that's extremely complicated. For example, we have a CRM that we use that is very challenging to customize in a lot of ways, but it's very fruitful at the end, and it can't get you all the way there. But if you can give it context and you can give it everything you need, and it can at least map out a lot of the brainstorming, and then you can get it to a point where it makes sense. And we just redid our handbook, and having to redo a 30 or 40 page handbook is an enormous amount of work, researching the law, researching the rules and regulations. But we used it just to get us 90% of the way there, to do some of that research, and to the point where you can give it to our attorney and he's just got to skim through it and make some changes, rather than paying him $20,000 to redo the whole thing. It's a $500 bill just to skim it.
Yeah. So when you say it, are you referring to ChatGPT? Is that primarily what you're using?
Yes.
Are you guys doing anything with AI agents or any sort of automated workflows, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so we use HubSpot as our CRM, and so there is a lot of automation on the back end with the workflows that we've got installed, both for the CE course we use, marketing campaigns, just how things flow through our business and get kept track of. But in terms of, if you were to go to the really physical world, we don't have AI on any of our equipment or any earthwork technology that's typically utilized in some of the bigger applications. But for us right now, the most of the AI we use is within our CRM, and there's quite a lot of features they've built in so far with that.
Cool. What's one thing that we haven't talked about today that gets you fired up or that you'd like to talk about?
I would personally just say how we're attracting staff. We're really early in that campaign that I mentioned, but my partner, he's a lot older than I am. He's about 53, but has had phenomenal life experience. And our partnership's been so healthy because we've complemented each other in so many great ways. But I'm really excited to share our views and core values to the world in a meaningful way, to where, going back to hiring one of the greatest guys we have on our team that's been with us a few years, Ryan Bailey. He, if anybody's in the industry, you might have seen him on social medias, and he's cultivating a new software that we use personally for estimating. It's great. And we found him online. And we found a couple other guys online. And I'd really like to build that flow, because we're building something to where a lot of people could benefit from. Whether you have experience in construction or not, we're trying to attract the core values that we have, and understanding that you can make six figures here and you can have a balanced life. We don't work Saturdays or Sundays. And that might cut the bottom line a lot, but I really believe we can attract and retain some amazing talent and some amazing godly men and women that are willing to do that, because they still have time to have a family and a personal life outside of work. And so we have the work coming. We have amazing volume right now, at least compared to our size, but the opportunities are there. And it's just about who's going to be there in those seats and who we're going to be putting on the bus. But I know there's going to be some amazing people coming our way that are willing to get in and get dirty with it.
It's clear to me that your faith is important to you. So I'd love for you to just share a little bit about how your faith impacts, the way you conduct business, and it obviously informs your hiring decisions as well. Want to share about how, if your faith impacts, the way you run and operate your business?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to say when I say it's a filter, it is a filter and it's something that you can go off of. But I think in so many ways, there's so many voices today that are on Instagram and Facebook, and your buddy down the street and the guy you eat chicken wings with whenever you go to lunch or whatever. But there's so many different voices that are telling you to be focused on the thing or the car or the house or the this. Or my favorite one is, this is how I used to think very personally a while ago, is I have to build this business and get all this money and get all these things so I can go start dating and I can go start finding a wife. And, God forbid you find a gold digger, because that's what that's going to attract. If you think money is going to be the source of that person's satisfaction, it is just crazy to think. And there's so many ways that in our business it's shown where if you put the focus on him and you go through the word, I like to explain the Bible if for the people that haven't read it, and most people haven't. It's the instruction manual to a perfect life and to happiness and to get out of that hole and to not have a giant void of depression. And so for the analytical person that's watching this or listening and you just haven't really found that place yet, it's explain it in a way to where don't think about it as this out in the clouds, lofty belief. Read the book. I dare you. Like, you read all these leadership books and listen to all these podcasts, you're listening to this one. Take a few days worth of time and just start reading through it like you would a normal book. And you will understand what that means to have something in your hands that tells you how to not be depressed, how to be happy, how to be satisfied with the things you have and the people that are around you. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, if we want to talk about money, there are people born in generational wealth that are going to go have Thanksgiving on their yacht that were born in a Ferrari. That you're never going to outrun them. I'm never going to outrun them. But the thing is, the people that are born on the other side, where it is middle class, both parents work. That's where I started and where most of our guys have. And you're not going to go there, but you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a new thing or a new way of doing things. Now, you have to have shelter and food and water. You do. That's a necessity. But at what point do you figure out, hey, more than this isn't going to make me happy? And more than that, how do you be satisfied and not have a void with the things you have right now? And I think if people can just learn how to do that and learn where that source comes from, I really think the businesses that are watching will go farther, the people that are watching are going to go farther, and everybody is just going to raise the standard for happiness throughout their life and generally impacting people in a positive way.
Amen. That's a good word, Reese. Thanks so much for coming on the show. If people want to learn more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
So we have a few different media outlets. I would say go to YouTube first. If you just look up Reese Alley, ironically, both of the company and my personal under the same name, but just look me up and send me a message or email us on sca.construction.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. And don't go anywhere. I want to chop it up with you, but thanks for coming on the pod.
Sounds good. Thanks.